The self. What is the self? An ego, and different terms. The spirit. Perhaps one is about to think out loud, hence the monologue. Uh, the self is perhaps what I speak, what I curse when I'm angry while playing sports, for example, if I curse, or the language of love, or if you remember last night's dream that included the dialogue, which language was that in? How is the ego? How is identity? What is the relationship between ego and identity? As far as I'm concerned, identity is language first and foremost. In English, we have a term mother tongue. So, what your mom uh, sang to you, which language she used to hum to you, to speak with you while she put you to sleep, your biological mother, perhaps your non biological mother, that's the mother tongue. And if you forget that language and 80 years later you're on your deathbed, that is the sound of that language perhaps would have you shed a tear, as opposed to any other language that you've gained since you left infancy and childhood. Hence, the power of mother tongue seems to be more powerful than virtually any other ideology, and seems to resonate and seems to really symbolize identity. Well, the identity and ego perhaps are two sides of the same coin as well. Language and identity, two sides of the same coin, or synonyms, and identity and ego, perhaps two sides of the same coin. The personal ego, not what we personally, uh, pardon me, what we publicly declare. The personal ego inside, the personal identity inside. I'm conflating many terms that perhaps some of you think are surely non-synonymous. However, they are synonyms to me. The ego is the self, how one views oneself. So does that mean one has an ego only if one uses reflexive surfaces, a mirror of sorts? Many homes have mirrors, and many mobile phones can be used as mirrors, and the Oedipus complex, and the survival of oneself over everything else, perhaps with a serious exception of one's children or one's loved ones. And a person in an emergency would willingly, without hesitation, give their life to try and protect one's loved ones. When push comes to shove, which human buttons are pushed and which human nature truly comes out? Or is it as simple as consuming a certain level of alcohol or any other poison, and then the real character, the real identity, the real ego is made public uh, eventually, perhaps in an unhealthy way that's not too socially constructive, perhaps even more destructive, but that depends on many criteria, of course. Digression and tangents. Is it a socially and legally sanctioned poison, or is it otherwise? And of course, trillions, I dare say, of dollars are behind certain industries, and I imagine you follow where that particular thread's going with the ego and the self, and perhaps the id. I'm not sure on what that is, but there's the ego, conscious and subconscious. Well, we sleep at night 8 hours of 24. That's a third of my existence generally. I know nothing about that, and many people dedicate their lives to understanding that. My hat's off to them. They're trying to come to terms with the subconscious, and hence the ego, and hence the spirit, and hence the fundamental human nature. We're all trying to get into the other's head through language, maybe through other forms of sound, verbal language, non-verbal language. We're trying to understand the other. We're trying to enter the other's head, even for a split second. We're all trying to telepathize, and as far as I know, no one's managed to telepathize yet. Why are we trying to enter the other's head? Well, if we enter enough heads, then maybe we'll know something about human nature, which again brings us, or brings me, to the feral children and the pseudoscience about the feral children raised on the teats of a wolverine or another animal. They don't talk, they only grunt when they're found, but we are told that the evidence is not conclusive, not empirical, hence pseudoscience, fringe science. All seems to be trying to understand what is, who am I, what am I, and hence who is the other. If we agree that the other is like me, born of a mother's womb, color the blood, color of the blood is red, and so on and so forth, and at one point this person will stop breathing, what will happen to the ego or to the soul when this person stops breathing at some point? There's much to say, perhaps too much to say. Going on 5 minutes already this video, but this perhaps might be behind all of the cognitive science, the psychoanalysis, perhaps much, much more than this indeed. Coaching, trainer, analyst, specialist, symbologist, social scientist, perhaps really synonymizing and even euphemizing certain terms. And all of this, as mentioned in another video, is connected to funding. Self-funding is one thing, although that has its own strings attached, but general funding, if you seek as a person other entities to fund you, then your hands are tied in what you say and what you present publicly, not what you feel and what you think. As far as I know, nothing on or off earth can actually directly affect what you feel and what you think, perhaps in the long term, subliminally through music or something. But this might be enough of a digression for now. I'm going on 6 minutes, so hats off to the ego and to all that really controls us. Have a good day.